welcome to my new channel and welcome to my pregnancy journey. This will be, I think, one of the first videos on this new channel, and I just want to get straight into it. This is going to be my very first pregnancy vlog, and I'll be talking about my first couple weeks of pregnancy, about from week 4 to about week 10. So I wanted to start off by telling you guys how we found out that we were pregnant. Basically, we decided that we wanted to have kids within the next year or two, and we took into consideration a lot of things and figured that it would take a good 6 months to a year to get pregnant. So we figured if we had started to try, that we probably wouldn't be pregnant until the end of this year or early next year. That was what we assumed. So as you guys know, my husband, he's in the military, so he's not even home most of the time. He is gone for, you know, a good amount of the year. So yeah, we decided that we would start trying in November. What we didn't take into consideration at all was that we could get pregnant on the first try. That wasn't even like a thought. It wasn't something that we ever considered. We have plenty of reasons why we didn't consider that, and I don't want to go into detail about why. You know, we definitely didn't think that it would happen on the first try. We definitely didn't think that it would happen within the first 6 months. I honestly thought that for us to get pregnant, I would have to take some sort of fertility treatments, or maybe vitamins that would increase fertility for both of us. That's what I assumed that we would eventually have to do. So yeah, we decided that we would start trying in November. My husband was actually away at sea for a whole month when we had decided that we would try. So we decided that we would try basically as soon as he got home. And I remember it was November 18th is the day that he got home, and that was like the first day we tried. And surprisingly, we got pregnant the very first day we tried. I still can't believe it. I'll never believe it. It just doesn't make any sense to me that we got pregnant on the very first day we tried. And because we got pregnant on the very first day we tried, every pregnancy test we took, we didn't believe. Especially my husband, he didn't believe any pregnancy test I took. I started having signs that I was pregnant within 3 days of conception. I think 3 days after conception, I started having implantation cramping. Now, everything I researched was you shouldn't have implantation cramping or implantation bleeding until a good 7 days after conception. So because of that, I still didn't believe that what I was feeling was implantation cramping. Although that was the only possible thing it could be, I still didn't believe it. And my husband didn't believe it either. So that was the first sign I had 3 days after conception. Also, around 3 to 4 days after conception, my boobs got very swollen and painful. Very, very painful. Still didn't believe that I could possibly be pregnant, because both of those signs are also signs of PMS and that you're about to get your period. So that's what my husband just kept saying: you're about to get your period. You're not pregnant, you're about to get your period. So after that, I was like, okay, we need to go and take a pregnancy test just to see, you know, if I'm pregnant or not. And we got $3 store tests, and all $3 store tests were positive, but they wouldn't turn positive until 10 to 15 minutes after taking the test. If you read the back of dollar store pregnancy tests, it says to disregard the pregnancy test after 10 minutes, and that any reading after 10 minutes is basically void. Since the positive wouldn't come up till a good 10 to 15 minutes after I took the pregnancy test, we figured that those tests were not reliable, that those positives weren't reliable, and my husband was still like, no way, you're not pregnant. So finally we went and we took a Clear Blue Easy, I think, and it was a plus or minus. And even after I got the plus on the Clear Blue Easy, my husband still wouldn't believe it. He was just like, there's just no way. So one of the reasons why he wouldn't believe is because all the tests I were taking, the positive result would be so light that it would be, number one, hard to read, and number two, it's just hard to believe, like, if the test would, you know, come out so late. So finally he was like, okay, we need to go and take a digital test. Actually, I was the one that said we need to take a digital test, because part of me was like, I'm definitely pregnant. Like, I wouldn't be getting positives if I'm not pregnant. We went and we got another Clear Blue Easy, and I think this one was a digital. It's either says you're pregnant or you're not pregnant. It's undeniable. And this was 2 days before we were supposed to leave for Puerto Rico, and I finally got the positive, and it said that I was pregnant. And then it also said the amount of weeks that I was pregnant. I think it said I was 2 to 3 weeks pregnant. And I went insane. Like, I started jumping up and down, going crazy, screaming. My husband's like, calm down, Keisha. Since I found out 2 days before we went to Puerto Rico that I was pregnant, we then realized that all the activities that we wanted to do in Puerto Rico, we wouldn't be able to do. We couldn't go parasailing. We couldn't go rock climbing. We couldn't go riding on an RV through the forest. For some reason, it said if you're pregnant, you shouldn't do it. So I wasn't going to take the chance. So yeah, we couldn't do that. There was also a natural spring, a heated natural spring. It was kind of like a jacuzzi. Of course, you can't do that. You can't go into a heated spring. You can't go into a jacuzzi. Basically, every activity that we wanted to do or we planned to do in Puerto Rico, we couldn't do because I was pregnant, which was fine. I mean, I was so happy and I feel so blessed to be pregnant. I mean, it's not a big deal. Plus, Puerto Rico is just so gorgeous that even if you're just laying around eating, sleeping at the beach, sightseeing, going to downtown San Juan, it's still really fun and enjoyable. So we still enjoyed ourselves despite the fact that we weren't able to do any type of activities because of my pregnancy. So while I was in Puerto Rico, I started having more signs and symptoms of my pregnancy. And by this time, I think I was 4 weeks pregnant. And we were there for a week. So I was like 4 to 5 weeks pregnant in Puerto Rico. And I started having cramps. And they were really dull cramps. They weren't as painful as period cramps. They felt similar to period cramps, but they were just a lot more dull feeling than period cramps. So I honestly was so scared feeling those cramps. I would constantly check my underwear to make sure I wasn't bleeding, make sure I wasn't losing my baby. And it was just scary being so far away from home having those cramps. But I did research that that's also an early pregnancy sign, are those cramps, because your uterus is preparing to expand and just preparing for babies. So there's just so much going on in your uterus that you do have pregnancy cramps. So I had dull cramps for a good week or two, I think in my 4th and 5th week of pregnancy. By my 6th week, we had just gotten home from Puerto Rico, and my husband found out that he had to travel for work to Virginia. We live in Florida, so we had to travel to Virginia, and I decided I wanted to go along with him. So we took the long trip to Virginia, and as soon as I got to Virginia, I was in my 6th week of pregnancy, I started feeling nauseous. And the nausea was pretty intense. It ruined my appetite. I was constantly I just felt sick. I just felt like I needed to stay in bed. And since we were out of town, we had to eat out. So I was always scared when I ate out that I would vomit. But the whole week we were there, I never vomited once. I was just really sick. They were doing construction outside of our hotel, and there was like a very strong smell of asphalt. And oh my God, it just made me feel even more sick. I mean, it was torture being out of town, being away from home, and just being so nauseous. But I thank God that that whole week that I was there, I never vomited, not once. It wasn't until 2 days after I got back from Virginia that I vomited for the first time. So basically from the end of my 6th week on, I was vomiting a good 5 to 7 times a day, and that's no exaggeration.